Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome into Guest Blade episode number 28. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Zero Tolerance 888, the ZT0888. A pretty badass knife, I got to tell you. Now, before we get into the knife, I do want to thank Trevor who sent this knife out to me. Actually offered it up out of the blue. It was definitely something I was interested in playing with, and it was really nice of him to just come up and say, hey, I've got one of these coming to me. Would you like to take a look at it and give it a quick possible video? So, Trevor, thank you very much. If you guys want to see Trevor's awesome collection, I've got a link down below to his, excuse me, to his Instagram. I'll spell it for you really quickly in case you're like me and you're too lazy to go look. It's Genkraid, Jen Kraid. Go check out his Instagram. See all the cool different stuff that he's got. He's a really cool dude. I had a chance to meet him at the New York show in person. He actually owned at one point two of these. He had the other one with him at the time at the show. And I got to tell you, it's if this were a custom knife with the design that you've got here, even without the composite steel blade, just with the design that you've got here, this would be $1,000 to $1,500 any day of the week from any custom maker. You've got a beautiful, fine-tuned piece of machinery here. What you're looking at is a wonderfully sculpted titanium frame. It almost looks like an integral the way that they've built this backspacer, but it is two titanium sides with the titanium backspacer. One of the most ingenious clips I've ever seen in my life, and I'll tell you why in a moment, but you can see from right here, just the beauty in the design of it is incredible. This may be one of the best pocket clips ever conceived. It's got a fantastic look to it. The very light mill lines that are going through gives you a little bit of extra grip on an otherwise smooth and very slick kind of design. The way they've milled out the design work here, this thing is just incredible. And the flipping action, again, remarkable. Super smooth. Now this is the second one I've handled. The first one I handled didn't flip quite this good. So, just like any other production knife, there are going to be some inconsistencies, and that's fine. But I think that Zero Tolerance really has raised the bar for quality, for design, and for ingenuity across their entire product line. I mean, even from the most basic knives, you're getting incredible bang for the buck. With this, however, I think you're getting even more. Number one, it's a limited production piece. I think when they first announced it, they announced they were going to make 250, but from what I understand, they've pretty much stopped announcing production numbers because of all the issues they've had with other knives. So, are there 250 of these? Don't know, don't care, but we know it's a limited production piece. We know it's fantastic quality. You've got S110V steel for your cutting edge. And the second part of the composite is 14C28N for the spine. So you will see the composite line right there. So all of this is going to be your S110. S110V is actually one of the best high-performance steels you can get. It is extremely wear-resistant. Can be brought down super paper-thin, razor-sharp. Holds an edge. It's probably one of the absolute best steels for edge retention. So if you're actually buying this knife to use it, it's going to be a good user. You're going to have very little in the way of upkeep or maintenance to keep it sharp. Problem is, ZT released this as a $500 knife. Now again, that's not the problem. If you looked at this as a custom maker's knife, again, this would be at least $1,000 to $1,500 with the way this has been built. The problem is the secondary market went absolutely apeshit overnight. Now we've all seen secondary market knee-jerk reactions before. This was one of the fastest I've seen. There was actually an auction recently where one gentleman, and I use that term loosely, sold two of them One of them sold for $3,100, and the other one sold for $3,500. Now that's asinine, and I'll show you that very quickly here. Here is the actual auction. I saved it so I could have a little screenshot of it. This is not just what he put on a buy it now. It literally sold for $3,500. Now, obviously, it's not worth anywhere near that amount of money. Imagine what $3,500 would get you. But a fool and their money, as they say. But taking value out of it, I got to tell you, the design of this is breathtaking. They spent a lot of time in this design. They spent a lot of time in the manufacturing. Even the lock bar relief has beauty to it, because they've continued to mill inside of there as well. Now you see that screw right there inside of the backspacer? This is part of what makes the clip design as brilliant as it is. That's a T6 Torx. You loosen that a bit, and now you can just simply slide your pocket clip over to go from right-hand carry, slide it over for left-hand carry. It takes you all of 5 seconds. You loosen it, you slide the clip, you tighten it back down, you're done. And what that allows ZT to do is to give a truly ambidextrous carry knife without putting an extra set of holes in their scale, because a lot of people do not like to see that. It's nice to have the flexibility, but most people are only going to carry on one side. And when they buy, certain knives that may have all this great transmorphability or whatever you want to call it, tip down, tip up, left or right, well, now you've got your clip on one set, and then you have 1, 2, 3 sets of holes in your knife, which take away from the beauty of it, especially in something like this. At the minimum, you'll have a left or right carry if they give you any choices. So over here, you would have had a set of holes that just would have looked crappy. Here they've completely gotten around that by doing that neat little screw right inside and allowing you to slide it back and forth. Aside from the brilliance of the engineering of it, it's a beautiful friggin' clip. It's a strong retention, but not overly strong. All 3D milled. Just wonderfully, wonderfully conceived and executed. They didn't screw it up at all. A lot of people don't like to see the billboards of zero tolerance all over their freaking knives because they do go overboard. I do like this set into the backspacer. It really goes into that futuristic look of the knife, in my opinion. I mean, this is, if RoboCop carried a knife, this would be it. This is what I would envision popping out of his leg right there on the other side. It just has this futuristic kind of robotic look. Then, of course, you have the standard ZT logo on this side. I'm totally fine with that. A little more than I would have liked to have seen on this side, but there you go. There are all your additional markings. Love this interesting groove they put down the center. Again, it flows in with the design that's carved into the titanium. The weight and balance is okay. I mean, it's a little bit heavy. It's about 7 ounces. It's not a lightweight knife, but you've got a 3 3/4 inch blade here. So you've got a very, very large knife. This is not a tiny knife by any stretch of the imagination. It won 2012 Knife of the Year for Blade, and it was released this year. It's almost, it's weird how they always seem to win one year, and then it's the next year when you're actually able to get your hands on the knife. Sometimes 2 years later in the case of the 777, or was that 3 years? I think that was 3 years. Now, a lot of people are trying to compare at least the popularity of the 888 to the 777. When it comes to the knives, they could not be more different. I actually prefer the 777 overall. It's lighter weight. It's easier to carry. It's a slightly more positive flipping action. While this is fast, it's not because of a strong detent. It's actually a fairly mild detent. It's just the smoothness in the bearing system that they're using that allows this thing to flip like crazy. Now, I have not lubricated this knife at all. And I don't know how much the original owner has, but it's not dripping anything out of the pivot, so it's certainly not overly lubed in order to impress me. Overall, if somebody said, is it worth $500? Absolutely, hands down, yes. I actually have one, I believe that's on the way. It was offered to me anyway, and the guy hasn't received his knife yet. It was offered to me at that price. And I'm going to be buying one just because I kind of fell in love with this. I love the feel of it. I really want to have something like this in my collection to use. I like the S110. S110 is just a fantastic steel. And when you pull this out of the pocket, even non-knife people are going to gawk at it and go, wow, what is that? That is the coolest thing ever. To watch the flow of design and the shape of the knife, but then to watch that groove flow into the handle. It's amazing. Just truly amazing what they're able to achieve for $500. Now, $500 is a premium price. Don't think I'm downplaying that at all. When you're talking a production knife at $500, you're getting into mid-tech knife territory. But this is really in the same vein of quality as any good mid-tech that you're going to pick up. So, you know, you almost have to forget that it's a production knife. And especially with the fact that they made so few. Now, that would be a lot of knives for a mid-tech, but not so many knives for production. So, you know, there is a balance there. Now, the nits to pick, I love that it's contoured and it swells outward toward the middle. So I've got a little bit more to fill up my hand. I would love for a knife that was made this large to be just a little bit fatter, a little bit chunkier with thicker titanium. And that's certainly not a deal breaker, but it just would have been kind of nice, I think. But overall, I like the sleek design, and that's what they were going for. They didn't want to make a chunky, overbuilt knife. They were going for sleek design. There's only one thing I don't like, and that's the grind lines all over the blade. It looks like an unfinished blade. If you look at any good maker that does work in progress photos, whether it be on their subforum or on their Instagram or whatnot, before they're completely done with the finish of their blade, a lot of times you're going to see the grind lines like this. And that's all I can think of. That's all it reminds me of, and that irks me. It irks me to a great degree, especially considering the price this initially sold for and the prices they're selling for now. Now, there will be people that will think that there's a certain beauty to that, but I see it as a great degree of inconsistency if you look throughout the entire blade. So for me, I would have loved to have seen a nice finer satin, or to go in the other direction, to go into a horizontal satin. That would have actually completely changed my opinions. But overall, I think it's an outstanding knife. If that's the only nit I have to pick, then yeah, it's a damn good knife, because I can be somewhat brutal. The other thing is I would have loved to have seen a lanyard hole. This is the style of knife that I would have loved to have been able to put a small lanyard on, just because of the short clip and how deep it rides in the pocket. It may be a little bit tricky for you to get your hands on the first time when you go to grab it. I would have loved to have something to kind of help pop it out of the pocket there. But that's it. I mean, you know, the detent is perfectly acceptable when you learn how to flip it right. I mean, you can't just rock back on it and get it to be as lightning fast, but it still opens fully every time you do that. I've never had this thing partially open. But if you preload it a little bit and push button it, oops, it is lightning fast. Very, very, very quick. One of the fastest flippers I've ever seen in a production knife. The lockup is okay. Nothing to write home about. It's about, looks like about 40%. Yeah, about 40, almost 50% lockup. They have a built-in lock bar stabilizer, or at least an overextension that's built in. So that's nice, because again, this is not tremendously thick titanium. So I could see somebody very easily bending that over. And you can hear it engaging in there. So that's really nice to have. The smoothness is what really caught my attention the first time I picked this up. So you've got a beautiful, sleek design that gives you something completely different than you might otherwise have in your collection. It may be the type of design that would be financially unattainable for you in a custom maker. So if you were able to get one of these at $500, I would say this, I would say hold on to it. because this is going to be a really good investment piece. They've already proven to be selling for a tremendous amount above their retail. And I think this will go down in history like the 777 as being one of the greatest offerings from any production knife company, and specifically from Zero Tolerance. This is one that people will be talking about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and those that had it and flipped it and sold it are going to look back at some point and go, gee, I kind of regret that. I wish I would have kept that. So if you're in that boat, I would say hold on to it. I think it's going to be a really good companion for you if you choose to carry it. I don't really see any downfall to it. It's a great spear point blade. There's a little bit of belly to it. So there's some functionality, some practicality to it for an otherwise very sleek, futuristic design. It is something that I think that most people could get some good daily use out of. As far as being an investment piece, obviously it's proven itself. I think it's going to continue to go up in value over time. And if you're looking at something that's just going to get oohs and ahs when you pull it out of the pocket, from most people, this is going to be it. And even, custom knife snobs, the guys that, oh, I wouldn't have a production knife. Even that guy is going to look at this and go, holy shit, this thing is really, really nice and really well made. It's not just a cool looking design. It's a cool looking design that was executed from nuts to bolts in a very, very high degree of quality and precision. There's really nothing. There's no wiggle in the pivot. The lockup is nice and solid. The centering is certainly acceptable for a production knife. It's only off-center by a little tiny bit. Everything about it screams high-quality production knife, and to most people that didn't know the knife at all, it would scream custom knife. And you know what? It's nice to be able to get that kind of feeling and that kind of design out of a production company. All right, guys, I'm going to close it with that. Thank you again, my friend, for sending this out to me. It's been a great experience. I'll get this boxed up to you as quickly as I can. I am now more greatly looking forward to the opportunity that I have. Hopefully it will come to fruition. And if not, I'll probably beat my head against the wall trying to find one. I won't spend very much over retail, though, because when you know that it's only $500, I don't want to say only, but when you know that it's $500, you don't want to spend $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000. So that's just how I am. We're going to leave it off at that. Thank you guys for watching once again. More videos are on the way shortly.